The verdict of obedience of the Sharia court against the disobedient Muslim wife. This is a love story written in English and translated in Arabic by Dr. A. Ahmed. Copyright. All rights reserved. All characters in this book are fictitious, and any resemblance to real people, living or dead, is purely coincidental. No part of this book may be reproduced, stored in the tribal system, or transmitted in any form or by any means without the prior written permission of the author, except by a reviewer who may quote brief paragraphs in a review to be printed in a newspaper, general magazine, or school or university journal or a magazine. This is a love story about three Muslim girls who are subjected to gross injustice, severe violence, and abhorrent persecution by Muslim men, religious leaders and imams, Sharia judges, and police officers in the Islamic community and the religion of Islam, and its hostile, hateful, and abusive teachings against human rights, which are uncountable. For example, beating of women, child marriage, circumcision of the private parts of small girls, which is known as female genital mutilation or FGM, slaying women in honor killings, inequality between males and females in inheritance, testimony in court, marriage, divorce, men's guardianship over women, controlling their lives and destinies as if they are minors, physically handicapped or mentally retarded, and forcing them to wear the ibayas, veils, hijabs, niqabs, or the humiliating black burqas as if they are frightening ghosts. Many Islamic countries prevent women from going to school and work, and they are forbidden to practice any kind of sports, and they are not allowed to go to gymnastics, beaches, or swimming pools, cinemas, or theaters, driving cars or bicycles. And none of them is allowed to leave the house without her husband or with a man. The woman is forbidden to marry, such as her father or brother, who is called muhallil, muhram. They are also not allowed to fall in love with men before marriage or choose their future husband or life partners. This is a story about three innocent girls, Intisar, Firdaus, and Muna. Chapter 11. Friends visit to the house of the alleged husband of Intisar. The family members of the four friends, including Sami and Salah, gather together to discuss the serious problem they are facing. They agreed that Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib was the mastermind behind the evil plot. He had planned Intisar's marriage to Hassan to prevent his son Sami from marrying a girl from a poor family. However, when it came to the purpose of his marriage to the younger sister Firdaus, the members could not figure out any reason. Some said he took advantage of Umar's desire to sell his sister for money. Wherefore, the rich old man used his great wealth to buy a young girl for his sexual gratification. Others believe that he did it to prevent his son Sami from marrying Intisar because, according to Islam, a son and his father are not allowed to marry the same sisters. Nevertheless, Farida, Sami, and Salah made a joint oath that only if they are killed or imprisoned could Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib and Hassan Mahjub al-Hilali take Intisar and Firdaus from their home and rape them as kidnapped girls. After a long discussion, the very angry Farida, her two upset sisters, and their deeply hurt lovers decided to go and confront the great politician Mahjub al-Hilali and his evil son Hassan. The next day, the four lovers and Farida arrive at the house of the so-called Intisar's husband at 7 o'clock in the early morning. The great politician is at home, but his son is not there. They learn this report at the outer door from the armed security guard. They express their desire to meet with Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali. The guard told them that it depends on the purpose of their visit and the famous politician's schedule. They told him that they wanted to uncover an evil plot made by some people in the city in which his son was involved. Moreover, they only gave Salah's name and address. After 15 minutes, the guard opened the door and directed the 5 visitors to the room they are to enter. There is no one in the room, and so they waited another 5 minutes before they hear a voice telling them that he will come in 5 minutes. When he came, he didn't keep his promise to add another 10 minutes. The visitors wondered when they saw the man who has come to fulfill the promise. One visitor mistook him for the father, another thought he the son, yet another concluded that he the grandfather. All these age groups are miraculously combined in that guy. So until he spoke and then revealed his identity, the visitors was hanging in amazement. Can you introduce yourself, please? Asked the man of wonders. I'm Farida Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, and this is my sister Intisar. This man next to her is her fiancé, Sami Usman Al Taib. That girl is my younger sister Firdos. That man is Salah Hassan Ahmad Saleh. He is Sami's friend. May I know the purpose of your visit? My sister Intisar, without her knowledge and consent, an illegal marriage took place between her and your son Hassan. Farida looked suspiciously at the man of wonders and said, may I know whether you are Hassan's father or grandfather? I'm neither his father nor his grandfather, nor I do have any blood relation with him. I am his father's personal secretary. My boss, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, has instructed me to study your case and decide whether it merits the disruption of his busy schedule. If I'm satisfied with your problem, I'll allow you to go ahead and meet him, or else I will be the last person you will see in this lodging. Farida said angrily, as I told you, this is my sister Intisar, and this boy is her fiancé Sami. They are planning to get married soon. However, we were all shocked 2 days ago when we learned that the son of your boss married her without her knowledge or consent. Wonder Man said, please wait. Then he walked across the room and took out of a sheet of paper from the cupboard and read it silently. Did you say the girl is your sister? Yes, she is. What is her father's name and what is your father's name? Of course, her father is my father. What is strange about that? I've already told you that our father's name is Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. Wonder Man is offended by Farida's sarcastic answer. He said angrily, so what if I ask you about her father's name and your father's name? I have 2 sisters, but neither of them have the same name as my father. My name is Fattah Abdul Razak Karrar. My first sister called Selma Muhammad Ahmed, and my second sister's named Saida Abdul Wahab Jafar. After the Wonder Man revealed his amazing family's genealogy, visitors are amazed and waited for him to explain the mystery. Salah said that it is impossible that there are 3 different fathers, and you want us to believe that they are your sisters? What is impossible about that? My mother married her first husband, and he divorced her a year later. After that, she married her second husband, who released her after 4 years. Finally, she married my father, who died with her. She had a child from every man. The wonder man waited for a while to see if there is any among the visitors who wanted to challenge him further about his family ties. Salah somehow had some admiration for the wonder man. What about your father? Salah said. Did he marry your mother only? My father had 9 wives. I don't think you can justify this either. According to Islam, a man can have a maximum of 4 wives at a time. How did your father manage to marry a total of 9 women? It is a simple matter, said the wonder man. My father was a womanizer. Women were his weakness. Whenever he saw a beautiful woman, he would pursue her until he added her to his harem list. After having 4 wives, he saw another beautiful young woman. He wanted to marry her, but he was hindered by the restrictions of Islamic law that you mentioned. That means 4 wives at once. So he went to Maulana, the Imam of the largest mosque in our city, and shared his problem with him. The wise religious leader gave him good advice which helped him not only to have a 5th wife, but to ascend to the 9th woman. What did Maulana advise him to do? Salah inquired. He simply taught him the law of release and possession. Maulana told my father that through that law he was able to marry 14 wives and begot many sons, daughters, and grandchildren. He said because of their large numbers that he did not know the names of all his descendants. Can you explain this law to us? Salah asked. Although Salah holds a law degree, he felt he encountered a law he had never heard of before in law school. Yes, I can, said Wonderman. Seriously, I'll give you an explanation. Suppose Mr. X already has 4 wives. Let us call them wife number 1, wife number 2, wife number 3, and wife number 4. Suppose this good gentleman sees a beautiful young girl and desires her beauty as well as the lust of her sexy body. So he wanted to have sex with her. But Sharia, which stipulates that only 4 wives at a time, stood in his way. In this case, he would either restrain his passion or apply the law of release and possession. According to this law, he could divorce one of his 4 wives and marry as he wished. It is preferable to divorce the first wife because she is the eldest and therefore the least desirable. When he marries his new wife, he does not name her uh, as his 5th wife because she becomes a substitute for the first wife. Again, he would not refer to the new wife, number 6, but the replacement of his 2nd wife, and so on and so on. In this way, the cycle can be repeated once, twice, thrice, or even 10 times according to financial situation, physical strength, and sexual ability. This is what Al-Hassan ibn Ali ibn Abi Talib used to do. He was a notorious womanizer and a marriage addict. He married 200 wives, uncountable slave girls, and countless numbers of slave girls and captives war of the defeated infidels. He used to divorce 4 women at once and marry 4 virgin girls at the same time instead of them. Moreover, my father was working as a muhallil in the Sharia court of Al-Gadarif city. Salah said, what do you mean by muhallil? I confess that although I am a lawyer, I have never heard of such a position in the Sharia court. Consider yourself to have come to the right person who is about to teach you Islamic law that you did not learn in law school. My father was sitting on a chair in front of the Sharia court with a large board hanging prominently over his head. In large words wrote, "The Bersia, or a legalizer of thrice divorced women, and the legalization of private parts of wives. According to Islamic law, if a man divorces his wife 3 times, he cannot marry her again unless she marries another man, and that man also divorces her after having sex with her at least once. My late father, may God have mercy on him, used to do this marital task because he loved women. Sometimes he married himself 7 of the 3 times divorced wives in 1 week. In this way, he not only got many women to have sex with him, but made a great fortune from the ex-husband of those 3 times divorced wives. He was a smart man. After fully and successfully explaining his father's strange function as a womanizer at the Muhallil, Wonder Man wants to start another evil custom of his late father, but is sharply interrupted by Farida. Can we stop this nonsense and go straight to our problem? Mr. Fattah told Farida impatiently. Yes, we can. Then he added, now you said this girl has the same father as you. Does she have the same name as your mother? Why do you want to go into this endless and useless talk again? We have the same father, the same mother, the same house, the same uncles and aunties, the same maid servant, the same dog. In short, we are real sisters. I am her older sister and her only guardian. If what you said is true, then there is a confusion in your relationship. According to my information, this girl has a guardian whose name is Umar, not Farida. I do not think that the virtuous imam of the largest mosque in town, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, confused Umar with Farida. In addition, I was present at the time of the conclusion and signing of the marriage contract and functioned as one of the 3 witnesses. So you are not her guardian, Umar. You will never convince me that you are a brother and not the sister of my chief's son's bride. From head to feet, from head to toe, you look like a girl, not a boy. Even your voice is a female voice, not a male one. You have big boobs, long hair, and you have a pussy, not a cock. Shut up your mouth, you tramp and impolite. Farida had to interrupt the secretary when he started using vulgar words to describe her. With all your knowledge and experience of polygamy, do you not yet understand that the evil practice brings enmity and hatred between rival wives and their children? Our father was also a polygamist, but he was not as notorious as your humanizer father. He married 2 wives. From his first wife, he had Umar and Badriya. From his second wife, he gave birth to me, Intisar, Usman, and Firdos. There was an old enmity between his 2 wives, which passed it on to their children. That is why Umar conspired with Hassan and sold him Intisar. This is an extraordinarily complex problem. I think I should pass it on to my boss. You will see him in 5 minutes. Then Wonder Man apologized and walked out of the room. Among the 4 great men in the city of Gadarif, Haj Muhammad, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, Mr. Osman Tayyib, Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali is the least among them in age, wealth, power, number of wives, and number of children, because he only has 1 wife and 1 son. In addition, he comes from an extremely poor family. The only advantage he has over the other three great men is that he has completed 12th grade and thus has become a great orator. Another notable difference is he is a tall, handsome man with a gentle smile on his face. After many years of struggle, he won the elections as a representative for the city of Gadarif in the General Assembly in the Khartoum city. "Hello, ladies and gentlemen," said the great politician as soon as he entered the room. The visitors rose to their feet to respect and shook hands with their political leader. "Please sit down, guys. Who will start the introduction?" "I think you should start first because you are the most. As a politician, I believe in democracy, which is the rule of the majority." "Well," Farida said, "this is my sister Intisar, and this is her fiance, Sami Osman Al-Tayyib. He recently graduated from University of Khartoum as a civil engineer. This is his friend, Salah Ahmad Saleh. He is Sami's friend and also graduated as a lawyer from the same university. This is my younger sister, Firdos. My name is Farida Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. I also graduated from the same university and I'm currently working as a translator in a foreign company in Abu Dhabi." Great men and great women with a wonderful education. "I'm not as cool as you guys. My father was a poor farmer. He could not afford to send me to university. However, I graduated from the University of Life. That is why the good people of this city entrusted me with the responsibility of representing them in the General Assembly at the capital city. Well, I have learned from my secretary that you have come to discuss a serious matter with me, so you need my help. This falls exactly within my duty. My duty can be summed up in one short sentence: defender of the weak. Now tell me, what is your problem?" Farida said, "Our problem was caused by your son Hassan. For that reason, we want you to stand up for your son before it is too late. As I told you, I'm not an intellectual like you. I need more explanation. Your son Hassan conspired with our half brother Omar and his one enemy and married my sister Intisar without her knowledge and consent to him. This is what you call a problem. I'm sorry to disappoint you. I would never call this a serious issue. It is just a misunderstanding, and if you listen to me, I'm sure your doubts will be clear. This is the story in a less complicated way and in an amazingly simple version. My son loves a girl I have never seen even once. He claimed that she is the most beautiful girl in town. He said that the girl also loves him. But she said she did not want to marry him until she finished her studies. She told him to wait for her to finish her studies. He waited for her for 3 long years. Eventually, she dumped him and fell in love with another boy who is much more handsome and richer than him. He came to me and said, "Dad, my life is over." He told me as well. I saw her with my own eyes standing on the road and talking to him and holding hands together. I told him to forget about her. A few days later, I learned from my wife that our son does not eat, drink, or sleep even at night. He became madly in love with her, like case with Layla. He wore black clothes and went on hunger strike. We became very sad to see him in such miserable condition. What bothered us the most was that we could not do anything to help him. He was dying before our eyes and we were helpless. When he was on his deathbed, someone came forward and gave us a good advice. He suggested we go and meet the girl's older brother. He told us that the girl had lost her father when she was a little girl, and therefore her older brother became her sole guardian. He said she has another minor brother and three sisters. Her mother is alive, but as a woman, according to Islamic law, she cannot be the guardian of her daughter. Therefore, the only man legally empowered to decide on her behalf or to marry her to his choice is her elder brother, Mr. Umar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. He said, this Umar, wise and gentle and righteous, and he is the son of 26 years old. We accepted the advice of that good man and went and explained our problem to Umar. He welcomed us and appreciated our visit. Then he told us that he was unhappy with his sister's love affair with the son of that wealthy man named Usman al-Tayyib. Accordingly, he expressed his desire to give his sister to my son as a legal wife. He said he knew eventually the rich boy would ruin her life and then throw her on the streets. He further said that and heard that many poor girls, like his poor sister, in the past would deceive in the name of love by rich boys. When those poor girls became pregnant with illegitimate children, or a so-called awlad haram, some of them were killed by their fathers in honor killings. Some committed suicide by burning their bodies, and some fled from their homes and became prostitutes in other cities. So he said he was ready to save his family's honor and stop his sister from ruining her life and spoiling his father's name. Accordingly, he said that he would give his sister Fil Intisar in a lawful marriage to my good son Hassan. However, I said to him, let me first meet the wealthy business tycoon Mr. Osman Al Tayyib and see if his son Sami is serious about his relationship with the girl and whether he will not mind if his rich son marries the poor girl. When I spoke with Mr. Osman Al Tayyib, he was strongly opposed to the friendship between his rich son and the poor girl. He also told me that he had already decided to marry his son Sami to Samia, the daughter of Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque. After that, I went to the Imam of the big mosque and consulted him about the marriage. He told me because the girl's father died, and according to Islamic law, her older brother had the right to marry her to any man he loves. I did not stop at Maulana, but approached the elders who lived near the girl's house and asked for their advice. They collectively told me that what her brother Omar plans to do for his sister Intisar is a very good thing. Moreover, they said that everyone in their neighborhood was worried about the poor girl love affair with that rich man's son. After those elders gave their consent, I went to Umar and took him to the Mazoon, Maulana, and we decided on the day of marriage. On the appointed day, the bride's guardian, Umar, my son Hassan, the groom, the Imam of the mosque, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Mazoon, me and many sheikhs gathered in the mosque and we performed the marriage contract. The next day, I sent my son, the groom Hassan, and the brother, the guardian Umar, to the house of his bride Intisar. When they went there, they learned from the mother that her daughter had gone to Khartoum to receive her older sister Farida. But through my son, I learned that the mother did not like the idea of approaching Omar for her daughter's marriage. I told my son that it was normal for her to object because Omar is the son of her late husband's fairest wife. In other words, as rival wives, they hate one another and their offspring dislikes each other too. I asked my son to wait until the older sister, Farida, arrived and we could approach them again. Now I am so glad that you have come to us and brought with you my son's beautiful bride Intisar. We are supposed to celebrate and rejoice today. Her groom Hassan will be happy to see that his beautiful bride has come to him. He will come home soon. When Mr. Mahjoub al Hilali finished his long story, visitors could not believe their ears that he had finally stopped talking. His deep and earnest political voice continued to ring in their ears like the bells of hell. Each of them questioned the veracity of his bogus story. Salah is the first to expose his objection. Have you ever tried to find out if Sami is sincere in his love for Intisar, or did you believe that what others said about him? Also, did you try to find out if Intisar was over a true friendship with your son and suddenly she decided to abandon him and replace him with Sami Osman al-Tayyib because he's a richer boy? For the first question, my answer is yes. I deduced from his father's answer. Besides, experience has taught us that this kind of friendship will never work out for good. Can you give me one example to prove that the son of a rich man married a poor girl in this city? Regarding the second question, I can simply tell you, I know my son would not lie to me if he had not been cheated by his girlfriend, Intisar, who dumped him and went to a rich boy. Well, can you direct us to those elders who agreed that your son should marry Intisar without her knowledge and presence and against her wish? This is a confidential matter. Can you tell us who is a good citizen or a good person who advised you to approach her brother Omar? I can tell you his name, but I cannot tell you his name, but I can say he is a social counselor who always helps people who are like us in such inconvenient situation. Can you at least tell us who are the witnesses who signed with Umar and your son and the Mazun, the Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, on the so-called halal marriage contract? This is also a confidential matter. Farida said, well, we came here with only one purpose, and that is to tell you that what you and your son and our brother Omar did is an evil plot. So as long as I am alive, none of you can touch a single hair of my sister's head. Now let the criminal Omar come to our house and take my sister Intisar by force to your selfish and cowardly son, Hassan. Mr. Mahjoub Al-Hilal said, of course, we do not want to challenge you. But as a man of the government, I must tell you that your sister Intisar has become the legal Muslim wife of my son Hassan. Sami shouted angrily while pointing his finger to the face of Mahjoub al-Hilali. Who made, who made your cowardly son Hassan, my fiancée Intisar, a lawful Muslim wife? Listen, young man, I have nothing to do with you. If you are angry that my son married this girl, you can go to her older brother Omar and ask him why he did not trust you to marry his sister. Salah said angrily too. As Said Mahjoub al-Hilali, as a recognized Sudanese lawyer, advise you to withdraw your support from this kind of evil plot. You call it wicked conspiracy, but I call it legal Islamic halal marriage. You openly defy us, Farida said with clenched teeth. I won't unless you make me do it, the politician retorted. There is a law in this country, Farida continued. We will try it first, but if the law fails us, I know how to protect my sister from evil people like you, your selfish son Hassan, or criminal brother Umar, Maulana Ad-Dajjal, the Imam Sheikh Marzouk, and the shameless old man Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib. I'm sorry, my friends. I think I have given you enough time. I have several other appointments for today. If any one of you have another further questions or a doubt, he or she can contact me either by phone or come by another day. You can get my ID card from my personal secretary, Mr. Fattah Karrar. When the great politician said those concluding words, he rose from his chair to his feet and walked out of the room without saying goodbye, leaving behind him the guests still in their seats. Chapter 12. The whistle-blowing child bride and her old Giza groom. From the house of the so-called Hama Intisar or her father-in-law, the friends decided to go directly to the office of Firdaus' alleged husband. They are disappointed with their visit to the politician's house. They felt that he openly defied them, so they are very angry. They remain silent on their way to the rich businessman's office. They march as if in a funeral procession. Their hearts are filled with a mixture of anger, fear, anxiety, determination, disappointment, boldness, and courage. When they entered the office, they expressed their desire to meet the rich business tycoon. His secretary told them that they could not meet him unless they had a prior appointment with him. They told him that if they did not meet him, he would be in great trouble because they had important knowledge of a crime that had to be revealed to him. He tried to find out what the information was, but they told him it was an urgent, private, and confidential. He could still refuse, but due to the pressure from the son Sami, he agreed to send the request to his boss. As soon as the request reached Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib, he called his secretary and asked him to send the 5 visitors. When they entered, the friends were surprised to see that the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk was also there to receive them. Before they could overcome the shock, Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib rose to his feet and welcomed them kindly. Some of them felt as if they had walked into the den of a wolf or a hyena, and instead of finding it alone, they found another hyena or a marfa'in with her. They suspected that Maulana was there by accident. They guessed that Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib had already reported his unpleasant encounter with them yesterday. Most likely, the old man had prepared himself for any possible physical attack and possible bodily injury. Then the father asked his son to introduce his friends to them. This is my biological father, Osman Al-Tayyib, Sami said angrily. This is his friend, Sheikh Marzouk. The imam of the largest mosque in the city believes that He was born and raised as a Maulana and should live and die as a Maulana. He was deeply offended when he heard his name being called for the first time without this precious title. Wherefore, he is almost tempted to resort to a severe curse on Sami and his father who begot him and turn away. This is Miss Farida Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, and this is her sister Intisar, my official fiancé. This is my friend Salah Ahmed Hassan Saleh, and this is Farida's sister as well. Her name is Firdos. As soon as Sami finished the introduction, the Imam got to his feet and pretended to leave the room. But Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib prevented him by saying, "Please, our blessed Imam, sit down and wipe what my son Sami said to you on my face." The blessed Imam obeyed his friend and sat down. "I'm glad to see all your friends, Sami. Please, ladies and gentlemen, be seated." Finally, the visitors were asked to sit down. Then someone came and brought a big tray full of soft drinks. "Please have your drinks," the old man said while faking a crocodile smile. While the friends were drinking soft drinks, Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib and his spiritual leader, Imam Sheikh Marzouk, began to whisper to each other some secret words. Then the old man opened his bag and removed some pictures from it and gave them to his friend Maulana to show for himself. With each photo, the Imam's face turns from angry to serious to sad until it becomes very ugly. After that, the photos were transferred to the older sister Farida. Then Sami's father told her to take a look at them and show them to her two sisters and their boyfriends. When the photos reached Sami, he is shocked to see himself and his beloved Intisar photo kissing each other on the riverbank in Khartoum city. Then he saw the temperamental girl Firdos freely offering her sweet lips to her new boyfriend Salah under a tree. After that, he saw his beloved girlfriend Intisar lying on a bench on the bank of the river while her head buried under his body. The photo also showed Intisar's legs exposed and her small red underwear clearly visible. The picture filled Sami with intense indignation and anger. His wrath swelled when he saw her covering her face with her hands and starting to cry. Firdos also started crying. Farida and Salah bowed their heads. Nevertheless, the lover Sami fell on his knees in front of his beloved Intisar, took her face in his hands, and looked into her beautiful eyes, which were full of tears. Then he kissed her sweet lips once, twice, thrice, and the two intimate lovers entered into a deep intimacy and passionate kissing. A so-called blessed Maulana, who has never kissed any of his four wives and has never seen a kiss before, has closed his all eyes. He does not want to see the act of haram and fahisha and immorality happen in front of him between an unmarried boy and a girl. As Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib interpreted his son and his fiance's bold act as open adultery and prostitution disguised as forbidden love. Accordingly, he started trembling and sweating, and his mouth was foaming. Salah and Farida raised their heads. Firdos stopped crying, and her tears ceased. And when the two lovers continued to hold each other and kiss unceasingly, Mr. Usman al-Tayyib rose to his feet and shouted at them in the in the loud voice of an angry ogre. Get out of my office, you four adulterers, and the fifth gay woman. And other whore too. Farida also got to her feet and yielded at the angry old man. We are good citizens, and our morals are better than you and this evil religious man. What do you want from me? Sami is no longer my son. From today, I will disown him. You ruined his life and corrupted his morals. Take him and go. We didn't come here to take Sami. We have come to talk to you about the two evil plots that you, the criminal Umar, the impostor Hassan, and this antichrist Imam did against my innocent sisters, Intisar and Firdos. Just go to the criminal court and file a complaint against us, said the old man. Of course, Salah shouted. This matter will be brought before the criminal court because it is not only a crime against Farida and her two sisters, Intisar and Firdos, but against all humanity, said Osman al-Tayyib. The Imam Maulana said to Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, this case will not be presented to the secular criminal court. It will be dealt with in the Sharia court. And we are the people of Sharia, Salah said. Aren't you ashamed to defend a shameless old man like that who wanted to marry a girl younger than his son? What is wrong with that? It is an accepted Islamic tradition and Sunnah, and our blessed Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, did it. One of the friends repeated the obligatory praise of the Prophet Muhammad. Maulana rebuked Satan and asked God for forgiveness for himself and his evil friend. Then he added that the Prophet Muhammad had married our mother Aisha, the mother of all believers, when she was 6 years old, and he was over 50. He consummated his marriage to her when she was 9 years old. Therefore, it is not wrong for the old man to marry underage girl of 15 years like Firdaus. Sami said, we will not accept such evil practices because they are morally wrong and inhumane. Mr. Osman Taib shouted, shut up, Sami. Isn't it enough what you did before my eyes with this adulterous girl Intisar? And now you speak blasphemy against our infallible Prophet Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. Listen, you shameless old man, cried Farida. If you don't stop referring to my sister Intisar as a bad girl, I will make you regret it. Are you going to keep calling them good girls after seeing these dirty pictures with those two bad boys? Maulana said, do you still hold this picture against us? Salah asked. Those same photos will be used to convict you in court and Mr. Osman al-Tayyib because Sudanese law does not allow anyone to take pictures of people without their knowledge. Does Sudan law allow you to kiss another man's wife? Asked the evil old man. Their older sister said, none of these girls have married yet. Are you their father or their guardian? Mr. Osman al-Tayyib asked sarcastically. Yes, I am the sole guardian of my two sisters, Farida cried. This is the end of the world, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk said sarcastically too. A woman claims to be the guardian of another woman? This reprehensible claim can only happen in the countries of the Western Christian infidels, but not in a Muslim country like Sudan. According to our blessed Sharia, a woman can never be a guardian. Yes, I am their sole breadwinner and guardian, and if you or this emboldened all man have any objections, I will cut out your tongue and his tongue. Mr. Osman Taib said sarcastically that if a woman becomes an axe, she will not cut anyone's head off. When Farida heard the sarcastic words of Sami's father, she took off her shoe and threw it at his face. The old man jumped back and the shoe hit the wall. Farida ran to him, but Salah prevented her. While Salah was holding her, she spat on the old man's face. Before today, the old geezer, Mr. Osman Taib, exclaimed, I was not interested in marriage, and I did it to protect my name from being spoiled by my birth son Sami. But now that you have humiliated me and challenged me in my office and set my own son against me, I will demand through Sharia that my first wife, Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, come and live with me in my house. As long as I am alive, Farida cried, neither you nor the dirty politician's son Hassan can touch even one finger of my two sisters. Even today I call you my father, but if you persist in these evil plots, I will never use that honorable name again. I will call you an insolent old man, an evil conspirator, and I will fight you and your partners in crime, especially this cunning fox who exploits religious authority to justify his evil actions. Maulana Al-Mubarak, Sheikh Marzouk, please proceed with your complaint against these adulterers. You must submit a written complaint with the necessary documents to the Sharia court. Write in the complaint that my legal Muslim wife, Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, refused to join me as her legal husband. Instead, she hitchhikes with another man who has no blood relation to her. Send those disgraceful photos as evidence to the judge of the Sharia court. But tomorrow morning, bring the suit for me to sign before submitting it. After he finishing ordering his spiritual friend to file a case with the Sharia court, Mr. Osman Taib stood on his feet and said to his visitors, will you leave my office or should I call my armed security guards? Then I ordered them to kick you out of my office. We are not stray dogs or criminals to be expelled, Farida said as her lips trembled and her teeth slammed together in anger. Before we leave, I want to remind you that Firdaus is neither your Muslim first wife nor a slave girl whom Omar sells and buys from him by you. She has every right to decide who she loves to marry. For that reason, neither the Sharia court, nor the police, nor even this religious fraud man can force her to come to your house. I forewarn you that you should not think that your money or any power in this country could allow you to enslave and mistreat us. When Farida gave her last words to Mr. Osman al-Taib, she left the office, followed by her two younger sisters and their boyfriends. The two old men remained silent for a long time after the angry visitors left the office. Suddenly, Mr. Osman al-Taib broke the silence and started crying. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk approached him and began to comfort him. The Imam saw that the old man is crying over his son Sami. Mr. Osman Taib suddenly stopped crying and said sadly that This little girl Firdaus reminds me of my late first wife, Russia. I swear to God, she's like her twin. Since Russia died in the hospital at the time of her firstborn delivery, I've never forgotten her. Today, when I saw this little girl Firdaus, I thought Russia had come back to life. The same sexy body, the same height and big buttocks, the same beautiful eyes and breasts high above the chest, the same sweet lips and narrow waist, the same straight nose, eyebrows, white even teeth, and the same long hair. My heart yearns for one day with Russia on bed. She used to call me Uncle Usman, and I used to call her my little princess Russia. Whenever I came home, I found her eyes singing like a bird, just like the little nightingale with her sweet voice, or lying on the sofa and watching TV. Her favorite channel is Cartoon International Network. Her favorite show was Mickey Mouse. She also loved Barbie and Tom and Jerry. As soon as I entered the house, she would come running and say that Uncle Usman had come. Then her hands searched my pockets for the chocolate. I have never disappointed her any day. Sometimes I found her little girlfriends playing with her. Whenever they saw me, they would run to their parents. Many times I stopped them and allowed them to continue playing with my small wife. The description of those happy days reminded Maulana Sheikh Marzouk of his youngest daughter, Muna, instead of his first wife, Khadija. So he interrupted his old friend by asking him about the age of the prince's wife. She was only 13 years old when I married her, and I was 64. She died after 1 year of our happy married life. She died due to cesarean surgery during her first childbirth. Even her young child died with her. If I had known that she would die of childbirth, I would not have met her pregnant at that young underage. And again the old man began to weep and shed many tears of sorrow. Maulana's heart was affected, so he approached his sad friend and began to console him. Be brave and patient, Mr. Osman. She is now in heaven, waiting for you in paradise to die and come to her. You will see her again, and she will not be alone, but God will give you 72 beautiful virgin girls who are eternally virgin. Then your joy will be forever. When the Imam realized that his words did not comfort his crying friend, he approached him and whispered in his ears, do not forget that God has given you another twin from Russia. She is beautiful as her name Firdaus means paradise. She will be your heaven on earth. These last words of Maulana felt like dew from heaven on the grieving old man's heart. So they made him happy, like a groom who is about to spend his honeymoon with his beautiful underage virgin bride. After the confrontation with the conspirators, the four friends and Farida went to the house and began to discuss the serious problems they are facing. They have collected enough information about the two evil plots, but somehow they felt that some important questions had to be answered before they could go to a lawyer and file their complaint. The first question that Salah asked was, how did Mr. Osman al-Tayyib know Hassan's love for Intisar? Secondly, why did Firdaus get married to obscure his son, not Intisar? For if he had married Intisar, it would have served the same purpose and made it more difficult for his son Sami. Sadly, who are the other two witnesses? According to the Mazun's, the Imam's confession, the same three witnesses acted in both marriages. If the politician secretary, Mr. Fattah Abdel Razak, was a witness, who are the other two? Salah gets that Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali could be one, but Mr. Osman al-Taib could not be a witness in either marriage because he is the husband in the second marriage. The same can be said of Hassan. Salah concluded that there must be a third witness, and the third witnesses, according to him, should be the so-called social counselor who directed Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali and his son Hassan to the brother Umar. It must have been the same person who advised Mr. Osman al-Tayyib to communicate with Umar. Therefore, this person must have been aware of the enmity that existed between Umar's family and Intisar's family. This grave hatred arose because of polygamy between the two rival wives. In this case, only a close friend or a relative can fulfill such a requirement. Farida and her sister Intisar and Firdos tried hard to find such a person among their relatives and friends, but they could not. Salah concluded that the third witness was most likely the mastermind behind the two plots. However, the friend could find no evidence to lead them to him. The only place left for them is the Sharia court. As soon as the lawyer Salah mentioned the Sharia court, the other friends asked him many questions. What will the Sharia court do if my sisters refuse to attend the trial? Farida asked. The judge of the Sharia court issues his judgment on them in their absence. But my advice is to appear before the judge and try to convince him of the illegality of the two marriages. What will happen if we cannot convince him? Intisar asked. In this case, Salah replied, he would issue a judgment called the verdict of obedience. Firdos asked her lover what the verdict of obedience is. According to the verdict of obedience, a rebellious wife who is called a Nachis should be taken to her husband's house by the police. The two sisters became frightened when they heard that they might be taken by force to their alleged husbands. When Salah saw their fears, he said, I did not mean to scare you, but this is what is supposed to happen if we will not be able to convince the Sharia court that the two marriages are malicious plots. However, the Sharia court is not the final authority. There is the Supreme Court. We will refer the case to the Supreme Court, which is also called the High Court, if we fail to convince the Sharia court. Intisar asked, if the Sharia court issued its verdict of obedience, would they immediately send the police to our house? Not right away. They must first send 3 requests for the disobedient wife to join her husband. But if she refuses to respond to those requests, they will send the police. Farida said, I will not allow the police to enter my house. Salah said, you can resist them, but you know what the police do in such a situation. Let them do whatever they want to do, but they cannot force my sisters to follow them as long as I live. They can't take my sisters unless I am dead or in prison. Don't worry, my dear friends, Farida, Intisar, Sami, and Firdos. They won't get to that far. As soon as the Sharia court issues a judgment of obedience and orders the police to take the rebellious wife to the house of obedience, we will file our complaint against Mr. Osman al-Tayyib and his gang. I know Sudanese law, and I will defend Intisar and Firdos, and I am quite certain that I will prove to the High Court, judge, and jury the evil conspiracies, and I am very certain that the court will annul those sham marriages. Why can't we immediately file the case and send it to the Supreme Court? Sami asked. Why do we wait for them to go to court before us? We can't do that. This kind of marital problem must be dealt with first in the Sharia court. Only after that can we be taken to the Supreme Court. Why was the Sharia court given such power to pass such a jungle-like law, euphemistically called the verdict of obedience? Sami asked. In fact, the verdict of obedience, or the house of obedience, was based on accepted religious authority or a Islamic tradition. Intisar asked, but you said the Supreme Court can stop the implementation of such an inhumane sentence. Yes, it is possible if we can convince them of the illegality of the two marriages. Sami asked, if we could not convince them, what would happen? The judgment of the Sharia court will be valid. Then the police officers come and take the disobedient wife by force to the house of obedience. Where is the house of obedience? Is he in prison? Firdaus asked with great fear. Not in prison. It is her husband's house. The husband will imprison his rebellious wife inside his house. He can tie her to ropes and beat her until she obeys him. In every Islamic country, there is a law in the constitution that allows the husband to discipline his disobedient wife, the father to discipline his rebellious daughter, or the brother to beat his dissolute sister, because the Holy Quran allows this in Surah An-Nisa, verse 34. However, Sami said, you must be joking. Do you mean to say that the policeman will come and take my fiancée Intisar from me by force and carry her in chains to that cowardly and selfish man Hassan, Mahjoub al-Hilali? That is what they are supposed to do as their duty. But let us hope for the best and prepare for the worst. We must not allow the problem to get this far. We are educated people, so let us use our knowledge to expose such evil plots to the secular court and to the public through media and other social media on the internet. Chapter 13, a crime of kidnapping and rape in a Muslim country. Friday is a very important day for the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque in the city of Al-Qadarif. On that day, which is a holiday, all Muslim men must attend the mosque for the obligatory Friday prayer. The virtuous Imam should lead them in their public prayer at noon. It is expected that the blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk will deliver a special sermon on that day. Every day he exhorts his listeners 5 times to do good and refrain from evil. His sermon on Friday will be a mixture of religious, social, political, and economic advice. Religiously, he will teach his listeners how to pray, the time of prayer, and the reason for prayer. Socially, he will show them by his good example of how to behave in society as a whole and in the small family at home. Politically, he will advise them who they should follow and why they should follow and whom they should vote for. In the field of economics, the blessed Imam also has an opinion. How should the congregation live a successful economic life. They must work and earn money and then pay their zakat or tithes to the mosque and the government and give their alms to the poor and needy. They should not offer or accept bribes. Because of this good advice, the blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk is considered the most senior religious leader in the city. Therefore, it is very important for every Muslim who loves God and His Holy Prophet Muhammad to attend public Friday prayer. However, on Friday, because it is an official holiday in every Muslim country, not every person spends it in mosque. Some Muslims who are called bad by society go to other places for their vacation. Those places have many names. Some people call them wine houses. Some call them houses of prostitutes, houses of Abyssinian women and whores, other clubs or local wine clubs, and so on. Unfortunately, many Sudanese mistakenly consider all Ethiopian women to be prostitutes, and that is why they call brothels in Sudan slaughterhouses of Abyssinian women. Before moving on, it is good to talk a little about the visitors to those brothels and taverns. The phrase wicked is often used as an umbrella to cover many kinds of vices. Not every visitor has to have all of them. Sometimes you might see someone who society considers a good guy there, so calling him a bad guy will cause a contradiction to the social evaluation of that person. He might go there at night to indulge in fornication, consume cheap local liquor, or buy drugs. So, if we allow such exceptional cases, the rest of the visitors certainly deserve to be called the bad guys. But again, between the valiants, there are also differences in degrees. Some people are bad, some are worse, some are worse than the worst, and so on and so forth. If we continue climbing the ladder of evil, we will find at the top what society calls futua. Such a word has no equivalent in the English language, but the closest to it is gang leader. Every 3 or 4 years, there will be a notorious man with his gang. They are considered master of those brothels and taverns. They will beat or kill whoever they want to beat and kill or kill. They will kidnap and rape whoever they want to kidnap and rape. They will eat, drink, and sleep freely in those wretched houses, and no one will dare ask them any questions. But since vice will eventually destroy self, this gangster will either be imprisoned to serve a life sentence or be hanged to death. Among those dangerous leaders of gang who similarly ended their lives are والدبرق الأشول, شاكوش ود الحرام, كوكو ود الشيطان, and Abu Shakhura ود الكلب, to name a few. When our love story reached its climax in the office of Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, it happened that the leader of the gang in those bad houses was a man named Al-Wahsh, very barbaric, as his name implies. He is a brutal man. And it happened that on the same day that the wealthy business tycoon Sayyid Osman al-Tayyib and his spiritual leader, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, the Imam of the largest mosque, decided to forcibly extract by the Sharia court and the police authority the underage girl Firdaus from her family as a disobedient Muslim wife. The gang kidnapped a beautiful teenage girl and brought her to a brothel and tavern house for the evil one who is their ringleader. The bully leader announced that Friday should be the day he comes for his new bride and thus the day of the wedding. All, all regular visitors to those bad places were invited to eat and drink freely and of no charge. A big brothel house has been booked for this illegal marriage. Alwish had done this many times with other girls who had fled their homes for fear of being killed by their father or brothers because they bore illegitimate children or awlad haram before marriage. Most of these girls were either raped by their close relatives, such as cousins or uncles, or cheated in the name of love by their lovers. However, the girl who is about to be raped by the master's bully is not that in that category. She's a good girl and from a respected family in the community. The kidnapping took place on Thursday afternoon while she was returning from school. Her parents reported their daughter missing to the police. Her full description was given to the police, which it read as a teenage girl with long black hair, a pretty face, reddish color like that of a mango color, and a good height. She is not married and has never had a boyfriend. She's engaged to her cousin, who's a handsome boy called Kamal. She's 16 years old and in ninth grade. Once the police inspector in charge received the complaint, he sent his policemen for a citywide inspection. The careful search began on Thursday evening. Every bus station, train station, truck station, movie theater, hospital, hotel, motel, and other public places has been carefully researched. Her photo and full description were sent to local newspapers, TV channels, radio stations, and displayed on the internet. However, all efforts are fruitless. The next day, the police inspector tells her parents that their daughter must have eloped with someone who cheated on her under the pretense of love. But her parents refused to believe that their good daughter could do such an abominable act. They told the police inspector that she was engaged to her cousin Kamal and that she's happy about it. Although he didn't believe them, he told them to come the next day. At noon on the same Friday, when the virtuous Imam, the eminent Sheikh Marzouk, began delivering his sermon in the largest mosque in town, the beasts began to rape the innocent girl. She was slapped, kicked, tortured, and brutally raped by the evil rapist. After that, the human beast came out of his lair to celebrate his victory over his prey with his gang and the rest of the visitors. The sinister celebration continued all day and night. During that time, the monster man repeated his evil deed many times of the kidnapped innocent girl. When he became completely exhausted, he gave permission to his 5 men who kidnapped the girl for him to share the prey among themselves. Likewise, these 5 human beasts raped the kidnapped innocent teenage girl. By Saturday morning, the police inspector ordered his men to ease up on the search. He concluded that it was a normal condition that had occurred many times. It is likely that the girl is in love with someone who was not approved by the family. In order to break off her relationship, they tried to force her to marry her cousin Kamal. For that reason, she eloped with her lover. Sooner or later, a relative or a friend in another city will see her and inform her family. So why should he bother his policemen, disturb his work routine, and keep looking for her in such a big country? By Saturday afternoon, the missing girl had been completely forgotten by the police inspector. But at 5:30 p.m., the same inspector received an, an anonymous, anonymous phone call. Inform the caller of the following information. Listen, sir, I'm a good citizen. My only problem is that I drink locally made liquor. I like to have sex with a hooker. It is my regular practice every Friday afternoon. I go to the brothels and taverns. I usually don't like to sit there for a long time, but something unusual happened yesterday that made me spend the whole night there. When I went there, I was surprised to find out that wines, liquors, food, cold drinks, candies, cookies, and cigarettes were distributed for free, which was not the case before. Accordingly, I had to sit back and enjoy this rare generosity. Later, I inquired about some of the other visitors on the occasion. What had caught the owner of this brothel and tavern house to show such rare generosity? Then I was told that there was a wedding. I asked who the groom was and who was the lucky bride to have such a generous man. They said they knew neither the bride nor the groom. After some time, Abu Narstal, like man, appeared and introduced himself as the bridegroom. He thanked the crowd for their participation in his soon to be beginning wedding. He was surrounded by 5 men who I mistakenly thought were his bodyguards. Then a female singer started singing vulgar song. Some girls started dancing, kissing, and hugging everyone. They were wearing such short dresses, which meant they were naked. After some time, a woman came and announced that the groom would go into his private room to enjoy his beautiful bride. She swore with the blindness of her eyes that she had examined the pussy of the young bride and found her a virgin, still like the day her mother gave birth to her. This announcement made the crowd cheer and clap their hands. The, the alleged groom, along with his 5 guards, entered a room and closed the door behind them. After a few minutes, the 5 guards came out, and one of them announced that Mr. Al-Wahsh said that all the crowd should eat and drink and be merry because this is a great day for him. Then the orgy began again. I began to wonder in my mind, how could a beautiful young virgin girl agree to marry a man as old as her father and who looked like a devil in human form? And therefore, I began to doubt the legality of such a marriage. I conclude that it was probably kidnapping and rape. However, I decided to wait and clear those doubts. An hour later, the man who claimed to be the groom came out. When I saw his face and his clothes, I thought he had fought with a lioness, a mad dog, or a mad woman. There were many scratches on his face and drops of blood on his clothes. His hair was disheveled and his clothes were torn. He was wearing only one shoe on his left foot. The female singers and shameless dancers stopped their singing and dancing and looked at his hideous appearance. He showed them a girl's white underwear filled with blood. They clapped their hands and continued their dirty dancing. I was disgusted to see such a scene. I decided to leave immediately and report this brutal rape to the police. I went to the door, but I found it securely locked. I asked a visitor to help me open the door. He told me the door wouldn't open until tomorrow afternoon. When I asked him why we were locked up, he said it was because the wedding was a secret one. Sadly, I stuck against my will to the den of those kidnappers and rapists for the night. I quit drinking alcohol, and all I cared about was how to save that kidnapped teenage girl from that beast man and his gang before they rape her to death. Several times he went to his victim, and whenever he came out, those savages rejoiced in repeatedly raping the girl. When he became so drunk that he could not move a limb, he fell asleep on a chair and began to snore as if he was lying in hell, tormented by the red devil with a pitchfork on his hand for his evil deeds. Then his bodyguards started going over that kidnapped underage girl until the five of them raped her too. The last of them told, told, told his partners in crime that the small naked girl was bleeding profusely. Two of them went out to call a nurse they said they knew. When they left the house, everyone was sleeping. I also pretended to be asleep. The other three criminals also slept. Shortly after they left, I got up from my seat and went to the door. Fortunately, I found that the door was left open. I immediately got out and get on the first bus that came my way. When the bus left the brothels and taverns area, I got off and went into the phone booth and made this phone call to the police. May I know your full name and address? Asked the police inspector. I'm sorry, sir, said the good citizen. I don't want to be involved in a crime I did not commit. Did you know that every word you said is recorded? I do not care about this. There is one thing you should know, that I am as innocent as that innocent kidnapped and brutally gang raped small girl. Can you describe the person who raped the girl and his five bodyguards? Sir, you are just wasting time. My humble request to you is to take note of the address of that brothel and tavern house and rush there with your brave police officers and save that innocent girl's life before she bleeds to death. Then the good citizen hastily gave the address and disconnected the line. The police inspector, whose name is Hussein Hassan Hassanin, received fake calls many times, but somehow he understood that this call is genuine. Accordingly, he called his policemen for an emergency meeting. When the police officer gathered in his office, he made them hear the good citizen's recorded complaint. Wherefore, every police officer on duty was ordered to equip himself with all kinds of weapons. Inspector Hussein strictly ordered his cops that none of those vile men and bad women should escape. If arrest becomes difficult, they should not hesitate to shoot and kill. Immediately, four large Police vans are loaded with police officers and drove toward the brothel and tavern house where the antisocial elements are still in deep sleep. The drivers of the four cars were ordered to enter from different four directions. The cops are also told as soon as they hear the police siren, they have to jump out of their cars and run quickly to the tavern house in question and attack the enemy. The question of who is innocent or guilty should only be asked at the police headquarters. Wherefore, every human being or animal in that brothel house should be treated as a very dangerous criminal, and therefore deserves to be beaten, slapped, kicked, spit on the face, hit on the head, and if necessary, killed on the spot. Whether the criminal, a male or a female, or an animal, he should be treated the same. At the community guards close on the brothels and taverns, red light area, the antichrist elements began to emerge from their slumber. In a few minutes, the ringleader and his gang, men and bad women and bad guys, became busy washing their beast-like faces, brushing their cannibal teeth, combing their ruffled hair, and changing their dirty clothes. As evening fell, some of them began to appear as humans again. The beast man has an instinct that always warns him of approaching danger. He can smell a cup a mile away, so he got to his feet and listened for a while, reassured by his criminal sixth sense about the approaching police cars. He entered a room and closed the door behind him. Then he called one of his comrades in the police department. His spy informed him about the good citizen who betrayed him and his gang and informed the police authority of his current crime of kidnapping and rape. So the evil man cut the bars of the window and ran away. None of his men and women noticed him escaping alone. When the police raided the tavern house, he is 10 minutes away from the crime scene. The taxis that had picked him up exited the brothel and tavern red light area and entered the civilized area. At that time, the men and women of Al-Wahsh hear a loud police whistle, then a loud horn, heavy gunfire in the air, and a loud shout of Inspector Hussein ordering the attack to begin. As bad guys never surrender to police easily, every person has equipped himself or herself with a few things or two self-defense weapons like chairs, benches, tables, knives, sticks, stones, swords, hammers, chains, and many other unknown white weapons. They even created obstacles and strongholds. The cups are like an army of locusts that came to devour a crop that lookers can see climbing the wall and leaping into the haunted house of human demons. Only a few of them prefer to enter through the door. Immediately, the two forces met in a bloody battle. In the first hour, neither of the two forces showed signs of victory, defeat, or retreat. Despite this, many were disturbed, wounded, shot, fell dead, and trampled underfoot. Meanwhile, Inspector Hussein and half of his force surrounded the towering house from the outside. They got the brutal house from the covers of both powers so that no one runs out from the battlefield. Inspector Hussein strictly ordered his police officer that if a coward is from the enemy's side, he should be mercilessly beaten and taken alive. But if the coward is one of his cops, he should be shot dead. When another hour has passed and the battle seems endless, Inspector Hussein is forced to have to leave with another half of his external force. Those newcomers made a difference and eventually won the battle. When they entered the battlefield, they were forced to jump over the corpses of their fellow police officers. By then, the enemy's resistance force was half gone. Therefore, the bad guys and shameless women fought for another hour against the new police force and surrendered. The number of those who surrendered is small compared to those who were killed or seriously wounded. At once, hear a cry of victory. Inspector Hussein, who thought he was the only one who fought and won the battle, came running inside the brutal and towering house to survey the damage. The first thing he saw was that those who fell to the ground were more than those who were standing on their feet or kneeling on their knees. Again, he saw among the fallen ones, those on his side more numerous than those on the side of the enemy. These differences only increased his anger, and then he started kicking, slapping, and hitting those who were kneeling and putting their hands on their heads. Once his anger subsided, he ordered his living cops to open every room, bathroom, storeroom, and toilet, and to pull out the hidden cowards. The police officer smashed every door, window, and closet, and turned over every chair, bed, and ransacked all rooms. Most of those found in those hiding places are young women and a few cops. 3 police officers reported a girl in one of the rooms who is either dead or dying. Hearing this report, the police inspector Hussein rushed and entered the room to save the kidnapped girl for whom the bloody battle has been fought and won. He found her clothes torn, her hair cut, her face received many slaps and blows. Some of her teeth are broken, and every part of her body is bleeding profusely. She appeared to him as if she had been attacked by wild beasts. He examined her heart to find out if she is alive or dead. Fortunately, he found her heart is still beating. He immediately ordered 5 of his cops to remove the seriously wounded girl. The 5 police officers covered the girl's completely naked body with a bedsheet, took her to the ambulance, and then rushed her to the nearest hospital. The pathetic situation of the innocent kidnapped and brutally gang-raped girl, underage girl, increased the displeasure of Inspector Hussein. So he ran out shouting at his cops and asking them to know who the gang members and their ringleader are. Upon first checking the bodies of the dead, Alwesh and his 5 men are not found. After that, the examination moved to the surrendered enemies. The 5 kidnappers and rapists are found, but the ringleader has been reported missing and most likely escaped. Police Inspector Hussein is enraged by this report and then told his officers that their victory would not be considered a real victory for the public and the authority of the police unless the fleeing enemy chief is arrested. So he took out half of his indignation on those 5 surrendered criminals and the other half reserved it for their evil ringleader. Then he ordered his surviving police officers to take the dead and wounded to the hospital and the living to prison. The arrested woman asked him to let them change their dresses so that they would look decent in front of the huge crowd that had gathered outside. Their request was strongly refused, and so they were removed from the brothel and tavern house, half naked or fully naked. When they appear in such an inappropriate way in front of the people in that red light area, there was a lot of shouting and cheering among the onlookers. Some teenage boys touched the vulgar naked bodies of female singers and dancers. They enjoyed touching the big breasts and huge buttocks of those completely naked young women. Some wicked men reached out and touched the hairy private parts of these prostitutes. A bold man opened his underwear and tried to insert his penis into the pussy of a sexy naked girl, but the police kicked him in the stomach, hit his head with a stick, and rendered him unconscious, and took his body as one of the arrested suspects. Among the apprehended singers and dancers, there are also gays, some lesbians, and homosexual men. There are many underage girls among the detainees. All the shameless female singers and dancers have come from Kassala city to attend the sinister wedding in Gadaref city. As soon as Inspector Hussein arrived at his office, he called the parents of the missing underage girl and asked them to go to the hospital to identify their daughter. A second call he made is to a man who had made a familiar complaint about the disappearance of his new wife's brother and asked him to come into police custody to identify his relative. An hour later, the man came to the police headquarters. Then Inspector Hussein showed him the arrested suspects. Unfortunately, the man's brother-in-law happened to be one of the 5 kidnappers and rapists of the innocent girl. The man asked Inspector Hussein to cooperate, but the police officer refused at first. Then the man wrote and signed a blank check and instructed the Inspector Hussein to enter whatever amount of money he wished to receive. In the blink of an eye, the check disappeared in Inspector's pocket. Thus, the crime of kidnapping and rape is removed from the son-in-law, and he is instantly acquitted. Shortly after that secret deal, a phone call came in from the hospital saying that the girl has been identified. Her parents have identified her as their missing daughter who was disappeared on Thursday afternoon while on her way home from school. She's alive but still in a very critical condition. Chapter 18. The disobedient wife stands before the Sharia court judge. Monday, the day set for the hearing of the complaint filed by Mr. Osman Al-Taib to the judge of the Sharia court in Gadaref city. In his complaint, he mentioned a lawsuit against his disobedient forced Muslim wife, Mrs. Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, because she refused to recognize him as her legal husband. Firdaus' marriage to the old man was held by her guardian, her half-brother Umar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, and, and this happened without her presence, knowledge, or consent. The aforementioned husband is 70 years old, while his first wife is only 15 years old. Mr. Osman Taib is also married to other women who are his three wives and has many children and grandchildren. With that, the teenage girl Firdaus became his Muslim wife number 4. The complaint was filed last Thursday morning. The Sharia court had immediately summoned those involved in the complaint, the so-called rebellious wife, the sheikh who claimed to be her legal husband, the imam who conducted the aforementioned marriage contract, the wife's guardian, and the witnesses to the halal Islamic marriage. Therefore, the complainant demands a just decision from the Sharia court judge and his jury, Al-Mubarak Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, judge of the Sharia court, and his 4 assistants arrived on Monday morning at 10:30 a.m. The title Maulana is equivalent to the name Mullah in Afghanistan and Pakistan. It is given to a senior clerk, an imam of a mosque, a Sharia court judge. The 4 assistants appear to be very advanced in age, but it is clear that the judge is the eldest among them in age, dress, knowledge of the Sharia, and probably the most experienced of them as well. Everyone in the courtroom is on their feet and is not allowed to sit down until the 5 justices have taken their seats. Then the court clerk came forward and began to read aloud the charge against suspected wife. After that, the bailiff of the court invited Maulana Sheikh Marzouk to come forward and confirm the legality of the aforementioned marriage contract. The Honorable Imam Al-Mubarak Sheikh Marzouk got up from his seat and advanced until he reached the clerk. He was given the Holy Quran and asked to place his right hand on it and take the oath. And with his hand on the Quran, said Maulana, "O Lord the Judge, I swear by God Almighty and by His holy book to say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth." Then the clerk took the Quran from the Imam and he began to speak. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and most compassionate, and blessing and peace be upon our Prophet Muhammad. May peace of God be upon him. The blessed Judge Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha and your honorable assistants, since I put my right hand before you on the great book of God and swore to tell the truth, I would first like you to know that I did not know the guardian of the bride before, except in the day those interested people approached me for the marriage contract. Of course, the honorable man, Mr. Osman Al-Taib, the groom, is a well-known man in our city for the charitable works he has done for us. He built the largest mosque in our town, and I was appointed chief imam in it. When these people approached me and asked me to perform the marriage, I asked them the usual question I would ask any group of people: who would come to me for the same purpose. Who's the groom? Mr. Osman al-Taib said, in fact, that he was the one. I asked, who's the guardian of the bride? Mr. Umar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir said that he was the guardian, Wali. He also told me that the bride was his sister and that he was her older brother. I asked him where her father was. He replied that their father died 10 years ago and showed me the death certificate. After that, I asked for 2 witnesses. They brought the following 3 gentlemen as witnesses. Then Maulana opened his handbag and read each of Mr. Mahjoub al-Hilali, Mr. Fattah Abdul Razak Karrar, and Mr. Muhammad Abubakar Mursal. Then I asked Mr. Osman al-Taib to pay the dowry to the bride's guardian. As a groom, he immediately wrote a check to the bride's guardian and gave it to him as dowry. I didn't know how much he paid him because that is none of my business. And after fulfilling all these conditions, as recognized Mazoon, I conducted the marriage contract of Mr. Osman al-Taib with Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir in accordance with the noble book of God, the Holy Quran, and the blessed Sunnah of our infallible Prophet Muhammad. May God bless him and grant him peace. Lawyer Salah immediately shouted, I have an objection. All 5 legal judges and the entire court look at him. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk does not know the name of the girl for whom the marriage contract was concluded. After hearing the objection, Judge Abdul Muhsin Taha put on his glasses and took 5 minutes to check the name of the bride. When he was convinced that his colleague had made a terrible mistake, he asked him to repeat the name of the rebellious wife again. Maulana Sheikh Marzouk realized at that time that he confused the first marriage contract with the second marriage contract. Therefore, he called it Satan and read the correct name. The judge said, Thank you, Maulana. Then the blessed Imam slowly walked over to his chair and occupied it. After that, the groom was summoned to come out and explain to the court how he got to know the bride Firdaus and her older brother Umar, and when and why he decided to marry her. The old man got to his feet and slowly walked toward the man who was holding a copy of the Holy Quran in his hand and was waiting for his oath to be taken. After swearing by the book of God, which he claimed to have memorized by heart from childhood, the old geezer began telling the following story. Blessed Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, the judge of the court of God and his beloved messenger Muhammad, Honorable Jerry, the other members of the court, and all present here. First of all, I want everyone to know that I did not know Mr. Umar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir nor his sister Firdaus before, except the day when I met a poor boy in the largest mosque in this city. Every evening I go to perform my prayer in the great mosque that God bless in my heart to build for his glory. One day after I performed the evening prayer, I saw a boy sitting in one of the corners of the mosque, holding the Holy Quran in his hands and was crying bitterly. His tears moved my heart, and I thought he was a poor boy. I believe in doing good and helping the poor and needy. I approached him and asked if he needed somebody to complete his studies. He replied that all this was not his problem. I asked him, why are you crying then? He said he is facing a serious problem in his family. He has 2 half-sisters who are not yet married. The first sister is 17 years old and the other 15 years old. Their mother encouraged them to move freely with the boys to go to bad places like movie theaters and to attend parties and dance with strangers. She even allowed them to travel with their lovers to other cities like Khartoum and Kassala. They spent days and nights in hotels and motels with these boys who were neither their close relatives nor their spouses. Furthermore, he showed me some picture of his unmarried sister, which showed that they were hugging and kissing and doing other nasty things with these bad boys. I have some of these shameful pictures in my handbag. If the virtual judges of God's Sharia court want to see some of them, I'm willing to show them. Every judge wanted to see the so called shameful photos, but they feared that others would convict him of hypocrisy prevented him from doing so. Mr. Osman Taib waited for a response from the five men of God, and when none of them demanded to see the scandalous pictures, he resumed his story. After that, the old man continued. The sad boy told me several times I went to my sister's house and told their mother to correct them, but she always fought with me and kicked me out. She hated me because I was I wasn't her real son, and she is my biological mother because she is a rival and fairest wife of my late father. Then I told him why you didn't tell his father to discipline them. He told me that his father died 10 years ago. He further said that several old men in his locality approached him and asked him to find husband for his sisters before they spoil his father's name and ruin it themselves. Moreover, he said that all the people in that area were worried that his sisters might influence their daughters. I told him, why didn't you tell the mother what people say about her daughters? He said he told her, but she refused to believe him and each time kicked him out of her house. She hates him because he is the son of her late husband Fair's wife. He also said that their older sister, who is called Farida, believed that a girl has the freedom to fall in love with any boy before marriage and also had the absolute right to choose her life partner among one of her lovers. The boy added that this sister is a university graduate and a feminist, and therefore she does not believe in God or the importance of following good Islamic morals. In addition, she believed that a girl should have premarital sex with her boyfriend so that she can find out if the two are sexually compatible or not. She learned this bad idea from the immoral and forbidden practice of Western Christian infidels who allow their daughters to have premarital sex. The good boy also gave me the nasty secret that his sister Farida is a lesbian, has a mistress, and has sex with her as a man and woman do in bed. She even performed a secret same-sex wedding, which is called gay marriage, with her female partner. That is why she remained unmarried until she was 25 years old. Nevertheless, I said to him, though I am a man of big wealth and great influence in society, yet I find myself helpless in such a situation. But I advise him to look for men who would agree to marry his sister. He said he has been searching for the past 2 years and to this day, but hasn't found anyone. He also said that because of the inappropriate behaviors of his teenage sister, he could not expect family to agree to their son marrying one of them. Finally, I told him, although I have many sons, I do not think that any of them would agree to marry one of his sisters. In response, he said to me, Uncle, why don't you help me? I laughed at his suggestion and told him, My son, I'm an old man and I already have 3 wives. He said again, Uncle Usman, from what people say about you, I knew that you are a big hearted man and therefore I need your help. He reminded me of my charitable work of building the great mosque, a religious library, a place for the homeless, a girls' high school, and a woman's ward in the city hospital. I thanked him for his kind words. Then he took my right hand and kissed it and begged me to marry one of his sisters. I laughed and told him, I can help you with everything but this. He said again, Uncle Osman, if you marry one of my sisters, every man in our city will take care to marry the other. I thanked him for his great trust in me, and I asked him to give me some time to think about it. That night I could not sleep. My heart was bothering me all night. This is a good Muslim boy, I said to myself, who wants to protect his sister from falling into deeper disgrace. But no one is willing to help him. If I did not help him, I would be like those elders in his area who only help with their mouths. So I decided to marry one of his sisters. It doesn't matter whether she is beautiful or ugly, rich or poor, young or old, good or bad. When Mr. Osman Al Taib said those last words, his false story was interrupted by a sudden clapping of hands from the audience. Even the judge and the blessed Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha and his aides also joined their hands in applause. The next day, the old man continued with a loud voice. I went to the mosque and met the boy and told him, I have 3 wives, and therefore I am no longer interested in women. If I want a fourth wife, many of the great and rich families of our society will be pleased to give me the most beautiful, young, maiden, and virgin. From what you have said of your 2 sisters, I understand that they lack in these moral virtues. Nevertheless, I decided to marry one of your sisters in order to save your family from further disgrace. Again, the fake story was suddenly interrupted by another applause from the audience. However, this time, the narrator's son got to his feet and shouted loudly, This old man is a liar. The judge shouted, Sit down and do not speak unless I allow you to do so. The narrator angrily looked at his son, Sami, and resumed his false story. After which I took the good boy to the Imam of the largest mosque, Sheikh Marzouk, and told him what God had blessed in my heart. Maulana welcomed the idea happily and told me that if we had 10 people like you, our city would be a perfect city and utopia. The old man waited for another applause, but was disappointed this time. Expected my good deed to bring me happiness, but instead it threatened my life and set my son against me. I'm ashamed to say that later I found out my own son is one of those bad girls' lovers. The girl whom I married according to the Holy Quran of God and the blessed Sunnah of our infallible Prophet Muhammad came to my office with 2 of her companions and her other 2 sisters and threatened to kill me if I touch her. Her gay sister, the lesbian, the feminist, spat on my face and threw her dirty shoe in my head. The blessed Maulana Sheikh Marzouk was with me when they said their threats. I rebuked them and encouraged me to file my complaint before the Sharia court and claim my first wife in law. Then the false narrator started crying and shedding crocodile tears. His spiritual leader, the eminence Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, came forward and took his hand and led him to a seat. After that, great sadness filled the hearts of many people in the court, including the 5 judges, as if the hero of the story had died at the end. They all felt as if they were at a funeral and waiting for the burial of the hero who had suddenly got shot and killed by a villain. The judge himself broke the sad atmosphere, called the bride's guardian, and asked him to take the oath and then testify before the court. A young man who appeared to be in his mid-20s got to his feet with great difficulty. He was supported by 3 men from the falls. With great effort, they dragged him forward until they came to the court clerk, who was waiting for him to swear. One of the 3 men took the young man's hand and blessed it on the Quran. When the court judges and the public have a good look at the young man's face, they think he was either blown up by a bomb or attacked by the wild beasts or fell into the hands of terrorists of the Islamic Caliphate called ISIS or are infected with coronavirus. Then the 3 men carefully and fearfully blessed him in an armchair. When they had made sure that he was not likely to fall either forward or backward or to the sides, they left him and returned to their seats. Everyone in court is eagerly waiting for the young man to tell not only his opinion of the trial, but what had happened to him. Why does it seem like he was blown to bits and pieces by an angry suicide bomber who died as a Muslim martyr and went to heaven to enjoy his 72 virgins and left him to suffer on earth? The young man tried to speak, but his voice could not come out, even though his mouth was completely open. The main judge, Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, asked the Imam, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, to act as his megaphone. I swear by Almighty God and His holy book to tell the truth and the whole truth and nothing but the truth. First of all, I would like to confirm that the Mazum Maulana Sheikh Marzouk and the good man Sayyid Usman al-Tayyib testified before the blessed court of God and His honorable Prophet. Every word they said is true. Before I go into more details, I want the Judge Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha Al-Fadil, the blessed jurist, and everyone here to know that for the good that I have done for my sister, I am today in this pathetic situation. While I was coming from the mosque yesterday morning at 4 a.m., a car suddenly stopped near me. Then 3 men got out of the car and attacked me. They were wearing black masks. They closed my mouth and forcibly dragged me into their car and drove toward the wilderness. When the car reached the eastern cemetery, it stopped. Then they took me out of the car and started beating me with big sticks and long whips. After a lot of beatings, they showed me a piece of paper on which was written, I am Omar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. I confess that Mr. Osman Al-Tayyib and Mr. Hassan Mahjoub Al-Hilali gave me a large amount of money. Accordingly, I agreed that they marry my two half-sisters, Intisar and Firdos, without their knowledge and consent. I told them that I would not sign such a false statement even under the threat of death. I would rather die as a true martyr for the truth than betray the innocent. They continued to beat me until I completely collapsed. I passed out due to the merciless beating. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself in my house surrounded by my mother, Hajj Sakina, and my kind sister Badriya, and the blessed Imam Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and the kind business tycoon Mr. Osman Al Tayyib. I learned from them that I had been rescued by a milkman who happened to pass by the cemetery road at that time. The kidnapper fled when they saw the old man coming while he was riding his donkey along the road and carrying one sword in his right hand and a stick on his left hand. Luckily, the man was our milkman. When he saw my battered body, he recognized my disfigured face. Then he put my unconscious body on his donkey and took me home. My mother Sakina and my sister Badriya called the righteous man who married my sister Firdos and asked him to hurry to help me. After that, Mr. Osman al-Tayyib took me to the hospital in his brand new Mercedes car. Then the guardian began coughing loudly, pretending that his strength was gone. So the judge allowed him to stop talking and put him back in his seat. The same three human couriers came again and carried the sick man back to his seat. Once again, the same sad atmosphere pervaded the courtroom. This time, the people felt that the hero of the sad epic committed suicide, died as a martyr of truth, and left the world of the living forever, and descended into the world of the dead. After the testimony of the guardian, the blessed judge asked the disobedient wife to come forward and explain to the court the reason of her refusal to join her lawful husband, Mr. Osman al-Tayyib. When the temperamental girl Firdos heard the judge calling her name, she refused to get to her feet. Farida tried, Intisar tried, Sami tried, Salah tried, but none of them could convince her to stand up. Then her boyfriend Salah whispered some words in her ear, which made her reply with a faint smile. Before the smile died on her lips, he grabbed her hand and made her stand on her feet. Intisar grabbed her other hand and led her forward. Likewise, she also needed a megaphone, and hence the judge asked her sister Intisar to speak on her behalf. Are you Firdos Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir? The judge asked. Yes, her sister answered out loud. Have you received any proposal to marry any man before your husband, Mr. Osman Taib? Yes, I have. How many marriage proposals have you received? 5 engagements. Why did you refuse all these marriage requests? Because I did not like those who made their proposals. Will you accept the man you love? Yes. Now, do you have a boyfriend? No answer. Do you know that you are a married woman? I'm not married to anyone. Why do you refuse to join your legal husband, Mr. Osman Taib? Because he is not my husband and I do not love him. Forget love and tell me any other real reason. I told you he is not my husband and I hate to see him. Why do you hate him? Because he's a rude old man. How dare he marry me without my consent and knowledge? Because he's an old man, so you turn him down. Yes, I turn him down because he is a despicable old man. How could he expect a girl of my age to marry an old geezer like him. But the Prophet Muhammad, may God's praise and peace be upon him, married Aisha, the daughter of his friend Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, when she was 5 years old and he was 55 years old. She was half of your age. She was 6 years when they got married, and when she was 9 years old, he had sex with her. Yet she did not hate him, nor did she call him insolable, insolent old man. How did you know she didn't hate him? Maybe she hated him when he started having sex with her when she was an underage girl. Every little girl would hate the old man who forced her to bed at such a young age. Will you marry your young daughter to an old man when she is 9 years old? Instead of saying yes or no, the judge and his jurors began to curse the alleged disobedient wife Firdaus. They concluded that she blasphemed the infallible Prophet Muhammad, who is considered by all Muslims of the world to be master of creation and sent by God as mercy to humanity and came to complete moral perfections. May the curse of God and his angels be upon you, orphan of immorality, shouted Maulana Abdul Muhsin Taha, the main judge. You are a bad girl and disobedient wife, and you do not respect your infallible prophet Muhammad, hooted another judge. A third judge shouted, by God, if you were my daughter, I would cut your tongue. You really need a man who will punish you and beat you day and night until your demons leave your fucking head. A fourth judge shouted, you are a despicable and immoral female. The chief judge said again, Satan has ascended upon your damning mind and possessed your haunted heart and made you his demonic wife. You are worse than the whore of Babylon, and the wife of Pharaoh's Vizier Haman, who seduced Joseph, the prophet of God. The Imam of the great mosque said, may the curse of God, his angels, and all people be upon you and your Muslim parents who didn't know how to raise you up according to the moral guidance of Islam. Another judge said, another angry judge shouted, get out of my face before I come and beat you inside this court or cut your accursed head. Intisar hastily rescued her sister before an angry religious judge attacked her and cut out her tongue or strangle her neck and kill her as an apostate Muslim girl. When the two frightened sisters took their seat, the judge called the three witnesses to come forward and confirm the marriage contract. Then these three gentlemen who carried the guardian went out and swore to go by God Almighty and His Holy Quran that they were present in the largest mosque in the city when the marriage took place, and conducted by the Mazun, the Imam, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and they testified to it with their signatures. They did this of their own free will and did not receive any money from the groom, the bride's guardian, or the Imam of the mosque. When the court was convinced of the legality of the marriage contract, the judge rose to his feet and issued his judgment as follows. In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and the most compassionate, our holy Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, said, whoever punishes his daughters, disciplines them, and marries them, will enter paradise. Today we witness the case of a rebellious Muslim girl who is known in the Holy Quran as Zawj al-Nashis. She lost her father when she was a child. That is why she did not receive the correct upbringing since her childhood. Her mother could not give her a good Islamic upbringing because she's a woman. And as the messenger of Allah said, women are deficient in religion and intellect. So her mother could not show her the right path. At the very least, she should have taught her to respect her noble prophet, who never spoke in vain, but whose words are direct revelations from the Almighty God. We have all heard her blasphemous words against the Holy Prophet and his beloved wife Aisha, mother of the faithful. I seek refuge in God from such a devilish talk. It is clear that such a girl needs a strong man who will discipline her and bring her back to the right path of her blessed Muslim ancestors. I'm glad that her brother Umar acted in the right time and brought her a blessed man like Sayyid Osman al-Tayyib. I know it is not an easy decision for him to marry such a dissolute, a rebellious girl, but since God has blessed it in his big heart, he will help him. In my capacity as the Sharia court judge, I issue a verdict of obedience to the disobedient wife, to Muslim wife, Firdaus Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir, the legal wife of Mr. Osman al-Tayyib. The esteemed Sharia court orders that the aforementioned wife must be transferred by law enforcement officers to the house of obedience of her husband, Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, so that he can consummate his marriage with her. I pray to God Almighty to grant him success in his new married life. Amin, O Lord of the worlds. The old man Osman al-Tayyib rose to his feet and began to applaud for the so-called just ruling issued by the Sharia court judge. The Imam of the mosque, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, started shouting, "Truth has come and falsehood has been crushed." Then he started shouting, "Allahu Akbar, Takbir," and the gang members of Mr. Osman al-Tayyib repeated after their Imam, Allah is the greatest. Chapter 15, a second visit to the abode of the mighty magician. There is nothing worth recording after the end of the trial except that Farida spit on her brother Omar's face and described him as a shameless liar, a despicable coward, and a cheap man who agreed to sell his sisters Intisar and Firdaus to men as an evil slave trader and Bim who worships money. However, Omar was unable to take revenge, most likely due to his physical impotence. When they left the courtroom, Farida wanted to confront Mr. Osman al-Tayyib and attack him again, but the police authority prevented her. Once Salah convinced her and her two sisters, Intisar and Firdaus, to go to their houses, he took Sami with him and followed the third witness. Mr. Osman al-Tayyib, Maulana Sheikh Marzouk, and the third witnesses went in the same car. Salah and Sami stopped a taxi driver and ordered him to follow the car in front of them. The driver followed the car for about an hour until it stopped at the eastern end of the city, where the cemetery is located. Then the third witnesses got out of the car, shook hands with the old man and the Imam, and bid them farewell. After that, The driver of Mr. Osman al-Taib Mercedes made a full turn and drove in the opposite direction. When he left alone, the third witness looked in all directions as if he suspected that some people were following him. When he assured himself that there is no one would follow him, he entered his house. Sami and Salah crossed the road and entered a cave. Can you tell us where Mr. Muhammad Abubakar Mursal lives? Salah asked the owner of the small cave. The man said, I was born and raised in this area, but I had never heard of this name before. Do you know who lives in the big house across from your place? Salah inquired. Are you guys some new strangers in this town? Yes, we are new visitors to this city. In fact, we arrived today from Khartoum city. Everyone in Gadarif city knows who lives in that house. Even the birds and animals of this city can tell you who lives there. I was told that Satan and his minions knew that man and feared him more than they fear their creator. Can you tell us who he is and what great achievements he accomplished for the city that made him so famous, and what power he possessed that made every creature fear him? Salah asked. If Sami and Salah were to stand in front of the house of the president of Sudan and ask someone to tell them who lives there, that person might not be as enthusiastic as the owner of the cave. He raised his chest and took a deep breath and proudly said, My friends, you are now standing in my humble coffee and tea cafeteria and looking across the street for the largest house in our city, for the great man Haj Muhammad. Every day, not less than 100 visitors come to that house either to receive cures of their diseases or avenge themselves upon their adversaries, or to obtain sound advice which will help them in solving their problems, whatever may be. 95% among them are women, young and old. Is he a religious leader, a lawyer, a cracker, a charlatan, a witch doctor, practicing black magic, or a social counselor? Salah asked. He is not among these, although his works include the social services provided by these professions. He is only known as a clean businessman. I was told by some of his visitors that even if you love the wife of the president of Sudan and want to marry her or kidnap his daughter from him without getting into trouble with the law, just one visit to that house will make you achieve this impossible goal. Sami innocently said, This means that his work is not clean. Did I say that, sir? How can I oppose the decision of the Deputy Commissioner of Police of Gadarif City, who officially declared that Haj Muhammad's social services are clean business? However, Salah said, we are having similar problems with our girlfriends. Every one of us loves a girl from a rich and great family in this city who studied with us at the University of Khartoum. Their parents do not accept us. In fact, they said we didn't deserve to shake hands with their daughters. They even said we were inferior than their daughters' feces. Then you come to the right man. Is it because he's a man of great influence and power, or is there some other way to do his clean work? Sami asked. I can't reveal that to you, or I might get into trouble myself. Well, Salah said, thank you, sir, for this valuable information. We'll definitely visit him tomorrow. When the two friends were about to leave, the owner of the cave stopped them and said seriously, listen, young man, do not go to Hajj Muhammad as you came to me. You should ask a pretty teenage girl to accompany you. Why is the girl important to visit him? Sami asked. Because he has a weakness in this regard. In other words, he's a notorious womanizer. I heard that if a pretty girl came and fell at his feet, he would do the impossible for her. Isn't it dangerous to send a girl to such a guy? He won't hurt her or rape her. He just enjoys talking to teenage girls. He likes to touch the girl's cheeks and squeeze her hands. We'll not go beyond further. I know many young girls from this area have visited him, and nothing bad has happened to them. Thank you, sir. We shall follow your wise advice and take with us tomorrow our rich and beautiful girlfriends and visit the house of that great man. After that, the two friends took a taxi straight to her girlfriend's house. Once inside the house, they revealed their great discovery to others. Then they began to discuss who would go to lure the third witnesses and extract the truth from him. The first suggestion is to send one of their pretty girlfriends because they both fulfill the requirements of the notorious womanizer. But on second thought, the two sisters were excluded on the grounds that they would be recognized by the third witness because he had seen them when they stood before the judge of the Sharia court. Several other girls are proposed but rejected because the task is difficult and secretive, and therefore only a reliable girl can be trusted. Farida is finally chosen collectively by all to do the work of seducing the lustful man. She's a beautiful young girl with a smiling face. She's in her mid-20s and an unmarried girl. Although she is not as pretty as her sisters, Intisar and Firdos, she is far superior in her feminine appeal. She has a sexy feminine body, and the guys at her work in Abu Dhabi consider her a beautiful girl with a great personality. Her only drawback is that she talks a lot and makes friends incredibly fast. Such impulsive behavior often gets her into serious trouble with lustful Arab men everywhere she goes. These Arabs do not see in the girl anything but fresh meat that they want to devour. They thought she was a free girl, available to have sex with any man who wanted her on his bed. Generally, she has a friendly nature and a very sweet girl. Alas, such a nice character choked on the shocking news of evil marriage plots against her two younger sisters. Salah explained to her what she is supposed to do when she goes to the house of the third witness. Moreover, he promises to give her a small police tape recorder, which she must hide inside her handbag and use in secret to record every word the evil womanizer will say. It is a kind of a tiny recorder usually used by police detectives. The next day, Sami and Salah took Farida to the house of the third witness. She entered alone, and the two friends went to a nearby restaurant and waited for her there. Those who visited the witch doctor's private room a month ago will notice some changes on their second visit. The great wizard no longer squats on the red carpet but reclines on a large white mattress that covers the entire floor. The room is divided into two parts, separated by beautiful sheer black curtains with white stripes. This division may have been created to keep the fearsome black creature, the doom, out of sight, so the witch doctor can talk to him from behind the veil and keep some privacy. When it is time to pick the lucky number, the visitor won't be shocked to see the monstrous Dracula emerge from thin air. Besides these structural changes, other changes can also be noticed by his visitors. The first is the position the great sorcerer himself is now in. Before, the great magician was squatting like a statue of Lord Buddha, but now he is reclining on a large bed as if he is a notorious womanizer of the Abbasid dynasty, Caliph Harun al-Rashid. His back is supported by many pillows. Another change is the addition of soothing music like the music one can hear if he is traveling in business class on an aeroplane. Therefore, the soothing music will not hinder the evil deal between the witch doctor and the angry visitor. On that very morning, because of their victory the previous day in the Sharia court, the clean heart of the compassionate sorcerer is filled with happiness and his body full of lust. He is envious of the old man, Mr. Osman Taib, for the pretty and the age girl, Firdos, he got as a bride. So he longs for another pretty teenage girl who will complement his joy and satisfy his insatiable lust. Suddenly he saw the door open from the outside, and his heart's wish is instantly fulfilled. She immediately came and fell at his feet and kissed him. Instead of touching her cheeks as was his old habit, the witch doctor touched something else inside her very high chest. Wherefore the sexy girl jumped backward and kept a far distance. Seeing her frightened face, the sorcerer came to his sense and reverted to his old habit of touching the soft cheeks of the girl instead of her large, almost visible pomegranate-like breast. His hand now fell smooth apple-like cheeks. The girl started crying, and the pilgrim started weeping away those tears. However, all of a sudden, she pushed his hand away and said in a sweet and spoiled voice, "I'm so mad at you. Why is this beautiful beauty angry with me? I do not want to talk to you. Please don't talk to me. I'm boycotting you." "But why doesn't our princess want to talk to me? Don't you know what you did to me?" "How could I know unless you tell me? Am I like a god to know everything? Please don't talk to me. I said I am boycotting you." "It is not fair. A pretty girl like you is always fair. I'm mad at you for taking my handsome boyfriend away." When the beautiful princess said those words, tears welled up in her eyes again. The pilgrim's hand again reached her left cheek and slid quickly to her lips. The princess pushed his hand away, but he took it back and blessed it on the other cheek. If your boyfriend is over the moon, I will bring him back to you. You can't do that for me. Now it is too late. Did your lover die? He is still alive, but I am the one who is going to die soon. Oh, young lady, please don't talk about this. You are too young for that. I wish he died, but I love him so much, and if he dies, I will die too. Please, my sweetie, tell me who is he, and I'll make him fall to your feet. If you do this for me, I'll make you my second friend, and whatever you want from me, I will give it to you. If you want my beautiful eyes and sexy body, I will gladly give them to you. We are friends from today onwards, the princess said in a sweet voice, which is spoiled. You know, Haj Muhammad, I was about to kill myself yesterday, but my girlfriend Hanan saved me just in time. I went up to the fifth floor of our 10-story building and was about to fall on my neck and kill myself, but she caught me just in time. She said to me, "Why don't you go first to the mighty witch doctor Haj Muhammad? He can make a dead corpse stand up and walk. He can fly like a crow in the air. He can also transform into a werewolf on the night of the full moon. He's just like God and Satan, and nothing is impossible for him. Therefore, whatever problem your problem is, he can solve it for you. He has divine attributes and demonic qualities, just like a god and a devil." I told her he separated us. She told me Haj Muhammad is innocent. Your cheating boyfriend was the one who cheated on him and made him think that he didn't have a girlfriend. That means your boyfriend left you and fell in love with another girl. Yes, that is what he did, and you helped him get the other girl. Why didn't you believe your girlfriend Hanan, who told you that Haj Muhammad is innocent man? Besides, you are a beautiful girl. So many boys will be willing to marry you. So forget about that traitorous boy. No one will care about me after he ruined my life and left me. How did he ruin your life? Didn't you see my big stomach? When Farida said this, she showed the magician her stomach, which appeared to be to him as a woman in her fifth month of pregnancy. She had put something under her clothes that made her look like she's pregnant. Haj Muhammad was amazed when he saw this. Why did you allow him to deceive you? Because he told me I will marry you soon. Then he had sex with me, made me pregnant with his illegitimate child, left me and married the other girl. He will also cheat on the other girl and then dump her and go for another pretty girl. He is like the famous Italian womanizer Casanova, who loved women more than he loved his God. He will not deceive her. He had been stalking her for a long time without my knowledge. When he learned that she was going to marry another boy she loved, he came to you. Then you helped him marry her. I don't remember ever dealing with a complex case like this. You love him, and he loves her, and she loves another boy. And I don't know if that boy loves another girl too. It is not like that. That pretty girl still loves her handsome boyfriend and is very loyal to her. The only loser in this matter is me. This is why I decided to end my life. How do I face societies with my shame. My father will slaughter me in honor killing. Then the beautiful princess started crying again. Our sweet princess, please stop crying. I promise that even if he is on the moon, I'll bring him to you. But don't forget your promise. Yes, of course, I will keep my promise if you keep yours first. I don't ask for money. Did you understand my request? Yes, of course, that is why I told you I would make you my best friend and give you whatever you want from my body. Now tell me your friend's name and the girl he married. His name is Hassan Mahjoub Al Hilali, and the girl, before Farida could say the girl's name, Haj Muhammad shouted, Intisar Ibrahim Mustafa Jabir. Yes, she's the girl who married my boyfriend. My sweet princess, you have asked me for the impossible. I can do everything for you except this. When the princess heard discouraged words, she fell on her face and began to cry. While she was crying, she stretched her legs so that the hatched heart began to beat rapidly. She deliberately showed him her sexy legs to the thighs. So the pilgrim was seduced and then reached out and touched her half revealed inner charm. But she removed his hand from her thigh and said angrily, If you are not ready to keep your promise, why did you touch me?